Paralegal or Bust, where we discuss my journey into becoming a paralegal. I'm your host, Cassidy Bass, and today we have my very amazing friend, Rebecca. And she is also a student. So, Rebecca, go ahead and introduce yourself. I don't want to speak for you.
Nice. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca Farias. I'm a Del Mar College student currently in the Paralegal Studies program, but I'm at the end of Paralegal Studies. So I'm currently in my last semester at Del Mar. I'll be graduating here in December. So that's me. I'm also the vice president of the LPA, which is the Legal Professionals Club here on campus. And then, of course, I also have my student membership with CCALP, which is going to be the Legal Professionals Club for our area.
So, any background? Do you want to share any free time, what you do, or?
Sure. It gets to be a long list, right? Shouldn't make that joke, but yeah. So also very involved with the community. I have a small business called Paint and Picnic. Also Becky Bakes. We're over at Art Walk downtown, and then we also set up picnics all around the area. Also a part of several different charity organizations. Just depends. We work with the Free Store. We also work with the League of Women Voters, and yeah, that's us. We try to give back to the community as much as we can, and then just life. I have a little one at home and family to feed and just all the great things.
Well, I really want the audience to see what all do you have on your plate, just so that people, even people who are running small businesses, people who do have kids and the significant other, everyone sort of can be oh, okay, she's doing it, I can do this. I know I can do this. She's doing it. I'm going to do it. Let's do it.
Yes. No, I totally get that. And the thing is, I feel like it doesn't really matter how your life is. Everybody has those things that are time consuming, whether it's their family or their hobby or their club or whatever. It does feel very overwhelming, especially in the paralegal world. Obviously, we're working with a lot of document prep. We're working with a lot of more advanced, complex thoughts, feelings, all the different things that comes with paralegal work. And so it can feel overwhelming. But I would say, like you said, anyone can do it. It's just a matter of time management and then figuring out if it's something that you really want to do. If you get into it and you figure out that hey, I don't want to be prepping documents. I don't want to be answering the phone. I don't want to do client management. Then, honey, this one ain't for you. I think Professor Dorn says it right when she's maybe try dental hygiene, because it's a polar opposite, right? Maybe try something else, because if in the beginning you don't even like it, there's no way you're going to like it in the field.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's funny. So does Professor use that example of dental hygienist?
Yes, in her intro class. I swear, every intro class. One time, so obviously I went through her intro class, but one time I got to kind of sit in and listen in on a start of her intro class for a different semester. And the first thing she said was, well, if you don't like this, you can go to dental hygiene. And I think the reason I picked up on that is because my dad is a dentist. So I'm I could have done that a million years ago, right? But yeah, I would say she has it right, because, sometimes it's a matter of trying something completely different.
Yeah. I find that funny. So the dental hygienist program here at Del Mar definitely needs to be thanks, Professor.
Right? Sending people over or what?
Right? You're upping our numbers in the program.
Maybe, honestly. It's a good program too, so.
Del Mar, just everything they offer so much for so many different career choices.
Yeah.
Things you wouldn't even know. I mean, take example, paralegal.
Yeah.
Hidden gem.
For sure. Oh yeah, especially being on the third floor of the Venters building. They just asked for us to be hidden. If any of you guys go to Del Mar, you're going to get that joke. If you don't, then you might not get it. But the Venters building is basically one of the least used buildings. Right now, it's one of the most, because they've got a lot of construction going on. But it's definitely literally hidden away.
Oh, definitely. It was funny. I ran into a student the other day. He was actually in the meeting of the student
government. Okay.
And I was like, hey, what are you doing here? And he was like, I don't know. I got lost.
Sorry, I didn't laugh. That's great.
And he goes, I found this place and it's sort of quiet and I like it. And I was like, welcome to the Venters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to invite him up to our lab, but then I was like, well, we sort of don't.
It depends. Well, especially what teachers in there, because we got the classes that go on in there. Sorry, guys. So my current classes would be, I'm in advanced legal document prep, civil litigation, advanced office management, and then I'm also in my practicum, which is going to be your paralegal equivalency of an internship.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that's like your favorite right now? Or like, no?
Well, that's a huge part of it too, right? I would say, honestly, practicum's pretty cool because you're actually working in a law office. And then Sir Dorn set me up with a law firm I'm sure I never would have gone on to seek myself. So it's kind of nice being able to see that personal injury from the defense side when, I want to go into immigration or I want to go into a different part of law. So it definitely put my foot in a door that I otherwise wouldn't have chosen.
Yeah, so it's like sort of just getting that experience when it's something you probably wouldn't have been like, hey, I'm gonna go get a job there.
100%. That law office, that first day I walked in, I was like, oh, a little fancy. A lot fancy. I am not even kidding. It is intimidating. Well, especially saying all lawyers, we'll put this in quotation marks, aren't created equal. Every single one of them has their own way of doing things. Yeah. They all have their own programs. They all have their own specialties. So, like even if you're working in PI, like my attorney that I'm under right now does appellate law. And so he's on, the appeal side of personal injury. And so even though he's in personal injury, comparing him to like Thomas J. Henry or something, they're literally nowhere close to the same. They don't even take the same cases. And so it's just incredible to see where people fester and where people really specialize. Well, yeah, and the person I work for, they work a lot also with like doctor malpractice. Yeah. And so they're working with cases that like I never would have thought personal injury fit under malpractice, but it does. And so it's just one of those things where it's like, you really get a different experience per attorney, and depending on which attorney you're working for. I had done a little bit of a job shadow with Professor Corona. He does family law, and the way they do their office and the way the place I'm at now does their office, completely different. Even the billing. Yeah. And you'd think billing would be the same, but it's not. And so you kind of got to find the spot that you fit in, essentially. Yeah.
So where are you exactly in the paralegal program?
So I'm literally almost done. I finished this semester and I'm literally done. I got these 4 classes and then I have the full, 60 credits, 80 credits, whatever it is. Yeah. I've been here too long.
Like you just saying that, I don't think I've put it in perspective and I'm probably going to cry. I'm just going to let you know.
I don't even think I've put it into perspective. I say I'm graduating. I'm like, am I ever going to get out? Because you got to remember, I've been at Del Mar since 2018. This wasn't my first declared major. I've kind of been piddling around figuring out what I want to do. And so to think that like, wow, like this is coming full circle. This is coming to an end. I'm not going to be coming to Del Mar 3-4 times a week, 5 times a week, whatever it is. I'm not going to be coming here for student events. Like that's crazy to me because I feel like it's been such a big part of my life for so long. Yeah. So it's definitely like a lot of change. And I don't think I'm quite willing to accept it yet.
I'm definitely crying at your graduation. I'm definitely going to your graduation.
Isn't that the point of graduations? I always cry.
Like working for Del Mar and like going to like just the student ceremonies, I'll sit there and I'll be like, don't cry. Don't cry. It's so mean.
No, literally. Well, and some people's stories are crazy.
Yeah, and then like they're finishing and they're like they got it. They finally
yes. Makes it all worth it. Oh, yeah. And everyone is so unique in their own journey, too, especially at commencement, because you got people in there who are graduating from welding. You got people graduating from phlebotomy. That was like 6 weeks. You got people like us graduating from, well, and the thing is, like, one of the people I'm graduating with is a CERT program. And that's not something I don't think people realize about the paralegal program either, is that if you already have a degree, you can go back and do the CERT program. You're basically only doing the law classes. It's way faster. I think, what? A year, 6 months, something, 2 or 3 semesters. It's not very long. Yeah, that makes sense. That's how one of the girls is I'm working with. And I wish I knew a little bit more about it. Obviously, I'm not on that program, which is why I don't know as much about it. But I would say that that's a gateway into paralegal as well. I think a lot of people forget about, you can have a degree and go back and it won't take you the full degree.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the good thing too is most of the classes are online now.
Yeah, that's true.
So
the hybrid.
It makes it so much easier for you.
Oh yeah, 100%. And you can kind of take it at your own pace as well.
So actually I had a question. What were you going for? Or like, what was it?
What year was it? Sorry. I switched a lot, guys. I switched a lot.
Can you touch?
Sure, no, I don't mind. So I started off my journey in 2016. I went to Hawaii Pacific University. I transferred right out of high school. I was a 2016 graduate. And I thought in my mind I was going to be a pediatric oncologist. Don't ask me why I thought coming out of high school I'd be a double specialization medical degree. But I did. I don't know. Maybe I watched too many Grey's Anatomy episodes. You tell me. I was 18. But I don't know. That's what I had fixated in my mind. So I got into Hawaii Pacific, spent a semester there. It was crazy expensive. Also, huge culture shock because I came from a small town. And Honolulu, Hawaii's got like 1 million plus people coming in and out just for vacation. So it was definitely a completely different experience. They also have a lot more Asian roots. Where I came from was a lot more farming. So you had a lot more of that like Tejano culture that sat there. So it was just like complete culture shock for me. And I was a history major, so I'm glad now I didn't graduate $100,000 in debt as a history major, so I ended up working out anyways. Went back home, went to Walla Walla Community College, spent some time there. I think I was medical technology or something like that, or maybe even like medical clergy or something. I was taking a whole bunch of stuff on like how to bill insurances and stuff like that. Moved from Oregon to Texas, came here to Del Mar. I was phlebotomy, and then I was medical tech. I'm not even kidding. And then after that, I did Spanish language, and then after that, I transferred to Mexican American Studies, and then I transferred to paralegal. So I'm at 5 different majors. That's embarrassing. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I've kind of piddled my way around because you, especially like at my age from 18 to 25, you change so much in general. Who I was at 18 is not who I am today. And at 18, if you'd told me I was about to go sit in a law office all day, I would have told you you're smoking some dope or something. You know, someone put something special in your brownies that morning. There's no way. Because I had just gotten out of working in my dad's dental office for years. I didn't think I'd want to work in an office setting. But now I can't get enough of it. I mean, it's so interesting. Each case is its own thing. Your own little family in the law office. I mean, it's just not something I would have expected then. So I definitely transitioned into who I was, kind of piddling my way through school.
Now, was there something that sort of like made you or interested you into becoming a paralegal?
I mean, not specifically. I think I'd seen it on a TV show or something. I think Little Women Atlanta or something like that. One of the girls was a paralegal, and I was like, you take a lot of vacation. I want your job or something like that. Yes. It wasn't literally anything special or like anything exciting by any means, but
like life-changing moment or anything.
No, but I think hindsight's always 20/20, right? So, like, looking back, there was this moment that I kind of had that was like this weird festering, and it was back when the White Library was open. If you're not familiar with Del Mar campus, yes, it was so good, and they're taking years. I've been here years and still ain't fixed, y'all. Just saying, but the White Library, right? So it's on campus. Everybody knows it. It's a 4-story library. It's in a white building. It's called the White Library, not necessarily because it's in a white building, because it's named after so-and-so white. But they had a whole floor that was law books. And I can remember spending a lot of time in there when I first started Del Mar. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I could never do law. I could never do something like that. Like, I'd never be good enough to do something like that. And it's funny now looking back, like I sat around all those law books and now I'm back to sitting around law books, but this time I want it right. So it's kind of funny how life does that. They throw those little ideas in your head and it festers.
So would you, well, I was going to say, like, do you think, or would you ever have felt like you would want a different career choice or?
To switch?
Yeah.
Nah.
You just,
No. First of all, my family would kill me. I think we already mentioned I switched like 5 times. You mad? Let me down to switch again? Nah. Social suicide right there. But I wouldn't switch anyways because I love it. Like, I found something that, like, I feel like, 1, I'm pretty good at it, and 2, like, it makes me happy. And I don't think I'm ever going to get bored of it because each case is different and each attorney is different. So if I don't like PI, I can go over to criminal, or I can go and try immigration, or I can go and try employment law. I mean, the world is your oyster. And for paralegals, we aren't even tied down to a jurisdiction. And that's something that I also like to like kind of talk to people about, is that if you become a lawyer and where you're working in the law, you take your bar exam in a certain state. You're going to practice in Texas, or you're going to practice here, unless you're working federal, obviously. But for a paralegal, we're never tied to a state. We work under our attorney's license. And so we could go work in Oregon. We could go work in Massachusetts. We could literally go work anywhere with a degree I got here in Texas. You can't say that about all legal programs. Yeah. And then there's also something to be said about the fact that Del Mar is an ABA approved program. Yeah. So we have that backing from the American bar as well. So that kind of elevates us as well. But yeah, especially saying the fact that I'm almost done and that I like it, there's no way I would ever switch.
So you're definitely retiring.
Yes, retired student. Hey, or is that alumni? No, I'm just kidding.
Like, let's do like a retirement. We're like, you're retiring.
School. Honestly, though, I'm sure there were a couple of people in the program who'd like to do that because a couple of them have already been through like master's and bachelor's degrees, so I'm sure they're fed up too.
So, what type of law do you think you're going to get into? Like, do you see yourself staying in what you are? And no. Just for the audience, what is PI?
PI is personal injury.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
I think we were talking the other day, and somebody was like, PI. And
I
was like, personal injury. Like, I was thinking private investigator.
That's true. Well, yeah, obviously it depends on what your acronym is, yeah. But yeah, and I also kind of forget too sometimes that not everybody knows the legal jargon. I wish I could go back with like a fresh lens and like literally do a list of like the words I knew versus the words I didn't know back then versus now. Because nowadays, like you get to the point where you know it so well and you've heard it so many times, like you forget not everyone knows what an appellee is. No, not everyone knows what an appellate is. Not everybody knows what plaintiff or defendant or, you know, right assert. Not everybody knows what these words are. And so it's kind of hard sometimes to remember like what's normal and what's just what I know. Yeah.
So PI?
No, I'm not going to stand personally. No. It's terrible. There's nothing wrong with personal injury. It's just, obviously you're dealing with damages and you're dealing with people who are often hurt and in my case, we're dealing with appeals. So that's not as bad. These are cases that have already been ruled on and they're trying to go back and get a secondary settlement amount. It's just, I feel like it's a lot of a rat race, and there's just a lot of different ways to handle personal injury. The place I'm in now, because like I said, they deal with appellate law, and then they also deal with like the Supreme Court and stuff like that. Like they have a higher level of expectation for accuracy, and I don't know if I could do that on a daily basis in my life, because I do have screw ups in my typing and my clerical skills and stuff like that. And it gives me extreme anxiety to think I have to hit 100% accuracy, because that's like Jesus. Jesus was perfect. So that's like, I'm like, oh, I don't know, there's a lot. That's a lot of anxiety for me. So maybe not that one. But I would love to get into immigration. I was previously a volunteer with RIASIS, and I just think it's an incredibly complex issue, and since it's politicized, it's very wishy-washy, and so I would love to be able to help an attorney navigate through that, and help families too. Yeah. A good chunk of people who are in immigration, they're either and this is a smaller portion, but they're asylum seekers, they can be refugees, they can also be here on a ton of different visas. I don't think people realize how many different visas they have. They got like A through Z, literally, of visas. You can be on an R visa, which is for religion. You can be on an H1 visa, which is for school. They've got B1 visas, B2 visas. So like people can be coming here for all sorts of different reasons. And I would love to be a part of that process of wanting to come to the United States, because we're amazing. I mean, who wouldn't want to come here? So definitely would love to get into immigration if I ever have the opportunity.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, what was like the hardest part of this program? I know you haven't graduated yet, but I feel like since you have had like the, you know, like the most of it sort of behind you, what would you say is the hardest part?
I would say the hardest part of the program is just getting started. Once you understand the basics, once you get the terminology down, once you actually like start getting a foothold into it, you're just going to climb from here. Seriously. I mean, it is, like I said, intimidating to say the least when you first start. But once you get past that, and if you realize that you like it and you've, like I said, you get that foothold, it becomes so much easier.
Yeah. And so then, what would you say is the best part, or like the most thing, like I guess like the one thing you feel thankful for coming out of the program?
The legal community. We have really amazing teachers. Professor Dorn will help you go above and beyond. We have literally the most amazing club that sits here on Del Mar's campus. You don't even have to be a paralegal major to join. You know, we just want you to learn about the law, and we're just excited about the law. Same as a CCALP. Those ladies are great too. I love going to our little CLE luncheons. So for me, I feel like I've come out of this with such an extreme sense of community around my legal profession. And I haven't even graduated yet. Yeah. So I'm so thankful for that, because that's just a matter of the people you have in the pot. You know what I mean? Like, you don't necessarily have to have that a part of your job title. Professor Dorn doesn't have to set me up with contacts in the community. We don't have to pair with CCALP. As a club, we don't have to let in other majors, and we don't have to be you know what I'm saying? Like it's just, we have a good group going and we have a good thing going. And so I'm just so thankful and grateful that I was able to come out of this experience with an extended family that I didn't previously have.
That's true.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to cry, okay?
Sorry. Getting in the feels.
Yeah. Funny story. Like, just I guess being in the program, sort of being like in class. Maybe not even in class. Like, if you had some kind of event that you guys...
Okay, I've got one. And this is terrible, and I hate that I'm going to admit this. So I swear, if this podcast ever comes up, if I'm in an interview later in life, I'm going to be pissed. I'm not even kidding. But for the first, 4 or 5 weeks of my criminal law class, instead of it calling it the penal code, I called it the penile code, like a penis. The penile code. And Professor Dorn, one day and I've been saying it for a couple weeks, nobody said anything to me. How embarrassing. The penile code instead of the penal code. That's so embarrassing.
But it's not too bad.
Professor Dorsey is 83 years old, and I'm like, oh yeah, in the penile code, he didn't say anything to, I'm not kidding, 3 weeks. Eventually, Professor Dorn was in there helping Professor Dorsey log on to Microsoft Teams, and she was like, wait, what did you just say? And I was like, the penile code. She goes, penile is a penis. I think you need the penal code. And my face went so red, and I thought to myself, and this is the moment someone tells me? Not when I'm in the hall yelling it, not when I'm talking to Jimmy or Sarah super loud about it. Because the thing is, we were actively looking up different statutes within the code. So just about every day, I said multiple times a day. Nobody said anything.
I think a lot of people use that terminology.
No, they don't. They don't. Maybe that's that medical. You'd think I would have picked up on that, right? Oh my God. Yeah, it's so embarrassing. But I'm not going around telling people. Oh my God. That's terrible. It is a simple mistake. Probably. I mean, give me a break. It's a couple syllables off or something. God. No, especially considering it's criminal law. You couldn't have called it criminal law code. What's up with that, man? Somebody tell me the history behind why it's named that.
We need to find that.
Oh yeah, now we're gonna have to, right, on our spare time. Stop! We make it a bonus clip, 5 minutes, or what? That's terrible.
So, advice for potential students, people who are listening, they're like, you know what, this sounds like what I want to do. This sounds like me. Perhaps, like you said, they already graduated and they're like, you know what, I'm going to go back. In the industry I'm in right now, I'm not making any money. I'm not happy. This is sort of the road I want to go down. What advice would you give them?
Well, I'd say the first thing you need to do is you need to figure out what in your area is there available for education. Not every area has an ABA-approved program. Not every lawyer requires you to be from an ABA-approved school. So, you really got to know what your market is. And I would also say, if it's possible, to try to shadow some sort of lawyer, some sort of paralegal, some sort of clerical clerk in any capacity. Because you're going to want to know if day-to-day on the job, this is around what you want to do. Certain things are going to change. Certain things aren't. You're still going to be filing. You're still going to be typing up motions. You're still going to be, doing all that sort of clerical works. So you need to figure out if that's something that you really want to do. Once you figure out that, like, yes, I'm sure, I'm like, yes, I want to be a paralegal, just go get a part of a program. You do not even necessarily have to be a part of a college. They have the training programs and tests that you can do through NALS, which is the National Association of Legal Secretaries. They also have different programs and trainings you can do through NALA, which is the National Association of Legal Action, I think. I might be getting that one wrong. But either way, there are other platforms that you can use to better yourself with paralegal education, to get yourself a little bit of an experience going before you fully commit, especially if you're going to commit to a 2-year program. It's kind of different when you're on a cert program, but obviously you're getting an associate's degree. You can even get a bachelor's for paralegal studies. It depends on what you're doing. From what I understand, the bachelor's is more for corporate law and a couple of other areas, but you don't necessarily have to have a bachelor's. You could do it on a 2-year level. You could also just go be a paralegal. Like, you don't have to be educated to be a paralegal. No, you're like, no, okay, yeah. You can also go, obviously. And I do recommend getting an education, especially if you don't have one, right? Like, if you don't have anything, you're gonna want to beef up those skills that they teach you, because you have to take a math class, you have to take English classes, you have to take kinesthesiology, you have to take an art. Like, you have to be a pretty well-rounded individual to earn that associate's degree. And those are experiences that you will use in the law office, especially speech. If you haven't taken a speech class, you're going to want a speech class, because you're talking a lot to clients, and you have to be able to not only advocate what they want to the lawyer, but you have to be able to remember what your lawyer's telling you and regurgitate it back to them in a way that they can understand. Take out the legal jargon. And that's something that takes practice. So, you know, if you're not ready to just throw yourself in the law field, don't do that. But if you already have a ton of education, you don't need it, you also can just go straight into the field. And that's what I love about paralegal. You can kind of make it fit you. It's a one-size-fits-all. If this area doesn't work for you, or this way of doing it doesn't work for you, you can try it a different way. And of course, we have an amazing program at Del Mar. So if you are in the Del Mar area, 10 out of 10 recommend.
Any advice for new students who are already in the paralegal program? Sort of like the ones who are fresh in the intro class, ones that are just getting their feet wet, you know.
If you're struggling, just keep going.
Yeah.
Seriously. I can't even count the amount of times I turned something in and Professor Dorn looked at it and went, that's 10 points out of 100. Like, I don't know what that is, but that is not what I asked for so many times. But you get to learn and grow. I mean, I think that's one of the best ways about the way we do our program, is if you're struggling, they're going to help you try to understand it. And they're just going to keep doing that until you get it. And it's trial and error a lot of the times. And this is the time to make the mistakes too, because, right, if I'm working on a motion or a plea or a divorce decree or whatever at the school level and I mess something up, it doesn't really matter. This client is fictitious, right? Like, it's not going to actually do something to someone's life. If you're filing your motions wrong out on the inside, one, you're probably going to get fired by your attorney. And two, it's going to make you look really bad and it's going to affect some lives. So, you know, this is definitely the area where they give you the ability to really, like, if you're going to make mistakes, this is the place to make them in, which is nice.
And so, would you have any advice for students, sort of like myself, maybe like Chloe, who we've spoken to on the podcast? Do you have anything like that, sort of any advice to us?
Like, as far as school goes?
Yeah, definitely. I would say maybe even with, like, the internship. Like, do you have any advice with that?
Well, specifically for internship, yeah, definitely work on typing skills, definitely work on clerical skills, definitely work on spelling. A certain law offices, the one I practicumed at, actually tested me on my skills before I was even able to get the internship. Oh yeah, and that can be intimidating too, right? So definitely practice and pay attention to the terminology. I found it really does make a difference. If you understand what a plaintiff is and the other guy who's next to you has no idea what they're talking about, that makes a difference. You know, like, oh, it's a personal lawsuit. Yeah, but who? You know, what makes them important? And so just knowing little things like that and just getting your vocab down, I would say, is really essential, especially for practicum, because you're in the thick of it now. Yeah. You're literally working. You're doing the billable hours for an actual attorney. You're looking at real cases. You're filing real cases. Like, this is it. This is what we've been preparing for this whole time. And so definitely, you know, continue to prepare yourself, because it's going to be a whirlwind, especially that last semester.
So, one last thing. Well, sort of one last thing. So, did you remember to do everything for graduation?
I did apply. I'm so glad you mentioned that. So, fun fact for those of you who haven't had any educational experience, you have to apply to graduate. Like, you actually have to put in an application saying, hey, like, I've done all the credits. I'm prepared. I'm ready. Let's do commencement. And like Cassidy just said, she had reminded she's our LPA. What would that be called? Yeah, the lab assistant. And so she does a lot of the announcements. And so she's done several about, hey, like, don't forget fall graduation, because if you don't apply, you ain't gonna graduate. So, but I did go ahead and I did submit it. So we'll see.
So on that note, your date of graduation is
December 15th.
So you will be a fall 23 graduate.
Yeah, that's crazy. Wild. 23, should I play those bottle songs or what? I'm just kidding.
Did you have that cap and gown?
Yeah. Are you kidding? This is embarrassing. I've had it since spring semester. Because originally I thought I was going to graduate in spring. And then it's obviously sitting down with Professor Dorn mapping out my curriculum. I was like 6 classes away still in spring. So I was like, oh, well, guess I'm not close. Yay! And so I took some classes over the summer, and then now I'm obviously taking the 4 that I have right now.
You're at the finishing line.
Yeah.
Anything you'll miss?
Everything. What is there not to miss? Like I said, you get to the point. I mean, I've been on this campus, 1, longer than the 2 years I should have, and 2, it's the community. You know, I'm not going to actively be the vice president of LPA anymore. I'm not going to actively be in the classes. It's crazy to think I won't see Professor Dorn or Professor Dorsey or Professor Shaver in the hall or in the lab or anything, because I just won't be here. I'll be doing something else. Yeah.
So quiet.
It was, oh my God, that's great. Yeah, you don't have to worry about the volume.
So many times about being in the lab and talking, like so many times.
Yeah, well, I've never been the one to be you're quiet. That's just never been me anyways. Definitely makes it interesting.
It does. I think it's, I like the whole presence you bring as well, you know?
Oh, thanks. I like being around you too.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I can't wait to see how it develops in the future.
Thank you. And I feel bad about your embarrassing story, but it was...
No, you can still put that in there. I'll survive. Maybe I'll get lucky and no one will ever notice. I'm like one of the beginning podcasts. You'll be at like podcast number 233 or something. And then I'll be like, oh, that's fine.
Well, thank you again, Rebecca, so much for coming on Paralegal or Bust and sharing all your information, especially like your experiences as a student, being in the program. I've really enjoyed you as being my friend, my confidant. I feel like not only just, I feel like you've given me like a lot of help and like mentoring as well, even though I hope I have for you as
Yeah,
well.
of course. It's definitely reciprocated.
Especially like the whole mom to mom kind of stuff.
Yeah, them kids, damn them kids.
Our stories about like our significant others and
Our man babies, if you will.
Yeah, I like that one. So thank you for listening to Paralegal or Bust. If you like the episode, hit the follow button. Also connect with me on Instagram and TikTok as Queen of Pantsuits. Until next time. Let's do this. I double click record for mine, but